Previously on DT's Geek Show.
I just got in one of my most anticipated statues. It came in 5 giant boxes. It is a Spider-Man piece and it's got 7 different characters.
All right, this thing has to support some serious weight. Ooh, this thing makes me nervous. Oh.
Okay guys, I'm back. It's actually a couple days later. I ran into some issues. I tried some things out yesterday, didn't work. So I'm back to the drawing board and today I'm gonna be doing some statue surgery. So let me point out kind of what happened here. So we got this big smoke piece. It is very heavy on its own, but not only do we have to add another big smoke piece with Mysterio on it, we also have to add his cape, his head, and then we have to add the Vulture to this piece as well. And that's all connected to the statue with one key, a key that happens to be popping out. So, yeah, not the best situation. We do have a support smoke that kind of is supposed to add some additional support to this. However, when I put it on, it kind of raises everything up a little bit and it forces even more pressure on the key and causes it to pop out. So my plan is to drill a hole through the smoke, through the key, through the other side of the smoke, and then insert a metal rod through it. And that'll prevent it from sliding out. That was my idea anyway. I kind of ran it by my buddy Eric B, who is an expert at doing repairs to statues. And he said, it should work. So let's keep our fingers crossed that this works and the whole piece doesn't come crashing down like it did before. I'm actually gonna take this piece off first. The fewer pieces in the way, the better. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna push the piece on as far as it goes. I'm gonna get my trusty drill here. Right now I've got a 1/8 inch drill bit. That's because the metal rod I have is also 1/8 inch. So it has a very snug fit. Not a lot of room for movement. And I'm gonna drill right through this thing to the other side. Go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna stick this in and try the fit before I cut it. All right, so it slides all the way through. I'm leaving this rod a little bit bigger just so I have something to pull it out if I need to. So I have my little metal rod now. I'm gonna go ahead, stick this thing on. Spin this around to give you kind of an idea of what I'm doing. I have the rod here and I just am gonna insert it. All right, so we got a little bit sticking out on each side. It's kind of in the back of the statue anyway, and I want there to be something for me to easily pull it out if I had to. Now I'm gonna try and put back this support piece, and I'm gonna show you guys what the problem I was having with this one is. So there's no real key here. The bottom just has kind of these pads to kind of prevent things from scratching and from moving too much. And then there's another pad in here where it goes up against this piece, I think right here. Once I put this in, it would raise this platform and raise it off of this little support piece. Let's go ahead and see what happens when I do it now that the key is in place. So as you can see, it raised the whole roof up. All right, so right here, there's a little piece that goes in place. I put some little putty on it so it wouldn't slide around. But now that I put this piece in here, it raises the whole thing up. And now there's about a little over 1/4 inch of a gap right here. So the only thing that's supporting the back of this platform is this right here. And of course, the weakest point is where you're gonna have the failure, and that's right where it connects. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna add some pieces in here and take some of the stress off of this area. So I got a little furniture mover. Let's see, I'm gonna have to lift it up a little bit in order to get under there. I'll slide that in there. And it's pretty snug on the edge where it actually makes contact. I might get something else to put in there. For right now, it's doing what I want it to do. Of course, we haven't added the heavy pieces yet. So that's what I'm gonna do now, and let's hope for the best. But as you can see, this is actually staying in there, which was my main goal. I didn't want this to pop out away from this because the whole thing would just collapse. So let's go ahead and stick this back on. This goes up here, and this one attaches with one key too, but it's a pretty long key. There we go. Let's go ahead and install the cape. Keys in right there on his chest. I will have to set this whole thing up all over again when I bring it to its final place. Go ahead and pop his head on. Light bulb head. We have his hand and his other hand. All right, guys, there we go. I'm gonna put this drill away. Hopefully we don't need it anymore. This is the best I've felt so far putting this statue together, putting these top pieces on. I was not confident at all when it didn't have that rod in there. Let's go ahead and stick Vulture on, and I'm actually gonna put his wings on first because I don't want to be messing with it once he's up there. This is as far as the key goes in. Right now the back of his wing is kind of touching the back of his body, and there's a pretty bad seam right here on the shoulder. The other side's much better. Still a seam line, of course. All right, so here he is, Vulture, looking pretty cool with his wings all out like that. He just connects with the big rod here on his foot, and it goes down into the smoke, and you know how I feel about the smoke. So while we push down on him, we'll support the smoke as well. I guess the weight of the Vulture actually creates sort of a counterweight for this, and that way it takes maybe some of the stress off of this. This is the closest we've come to actually setting this thing up. All right, so time to stick Electro back on. I took him off because I didn't want him to be a casualty of all this repair that I was doing. He still lines up. With Spider-Man's arm. We're gonna install the webbing. Not sure which way it goes. I guess shooting kind of up and outward. His hands like that. All right, so we have some electricity effects that go on Electro's back, it looks like. And it goes around his body. That one keys into the top of his underwear. We have some Doc Ock tentacles here. Each one has its own little key and peg. There we go, got those installed. There are a bunch of little tentacle claw pieces. We do also have the knife, the hunter's knife for Kraven. So this thing comes apart in two pieces. One slides in the top, one slides in the bottom. And then we have a ton of rebar pieces that are supposed to be sticking out of this building. The commissioner actually sent me a picture of where to put those, so I'm gonna go ahead, do that, figure out where these octo claws go, and it'll be done, finally. Okay guys, it is finally done. Before we get into the review, let's take this thing for a little spin. Okay guys, so we are back with the mass monster. This is the largest quarter scale statue I've ever seen. There are 7 individual quarter scale characters here on this one statue, which of course makes it massive. There have been multiple character 1/6 scale statues, 1/10 scale statues, but nothing to this size and scale. So as you can see, I've got my copy of the Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1, which features the first appearance of the Sinister Six as a team. I think this is a great little companion piece to put next to this. I'm not really sure where I'm gonna put this, however, because it is massive, not only in height, but width and depth as well. So it's not gonna fit on just any shelf. I'm definitely gonna have to create something custom for this thing. Due to its design, it's probably best somewhere in the middle of the room where people can walk around it to truly appreciate everything that's going on here. But I'd also be afraid of displaying this thing where people can knock into it. There's so many little parts that are kind of coming off the sides and the back of it that it would make me a little bit nervous. This one has the characters kind of spread out in very dynamic poses. We've got Vulture up there, wings spread. We've got Doc Ock here with all his tentacles moving around all over the place. We've got Sandman with this giant hammer fist and his hand up in the air. Electro shooting out things at Spider-Man. Mysterio flying there in the background. And of course, Kraven up here kind of climbing the side of the building. So they could have probably made this a little bit more compact by just having them kind of pose for the camera. But the dynamics really set this piece apart from any other diorama that I've seen. I thought it was clever how they were able to show a lot of the characters' faces, with Kraven being the exception. His back is pretty much turned with his focus being up to Spider-Man, where you only see his back from the front of the statue. But for the other characters, you can pretty much make out their faces from one angle, which is very rare when it comes to dioramas. Anytime you have more than two people fighting each other, you're usually gonna get the view of the backside of one of them. But here, they've kind of got everybody kind of twisted, kind of facing out to the front, which makes a very nice display. Everyone is pretty visible, and even if you can't see Kraven's face, you definitely know who he is by his outfit. The base is pretty much sand everywhere. It's kind of this sand tornado that's caused by Sandman. It's got a nice sand texture, very natural looking colors. The whole thing kind of sweeps around to connect to Sandman here. Now the colors are slightly different. I'm guessing they had somebody different paint the base than the actual character, and the colors are just a tad off. But for the casual onlooker, I don't think that's going to be a big concern. All this sand kind of encompasses this broken building. I thought it was kind of interesting how this whole thing is constructed. There are several of these walls that key into the base, and there's actually multi-layers. Like this front wall is actually two different panels. Then we have to key in this rooftop platform. It doesn't seem to fit perfectly. There are some gaps in here. I tried putting it on all different ways, and there's no way to completely make it gap-free. It doesn't really concern me as far as aesthetics, since this is a broken up building. It's supposed to have cracks and damage to it. My main concern was the stability of the whole thing. As you can see from my assembly video, I had to make some adjustments to this thing to make it to the point where I was comfortable with its stability. But I think my fix was sufficient enough to give this thing enough support where I was comfortable leaving it alone and not expecting to come back to a pile of broken pieces on the floor in the morning. The colors and textures of the rock on the building look really good. It looks like real concrete in many areas. We have these rusted rebar pieces that I had to kind of fit in. There were some that I didn't even know where they went. Even though I did have a diagram, it was just too much trouble, so I kind of just put them in where they fit. Now there are some areas where characters are actually keyed in to other pieces that are keyed into other pieces that are keyed into other pieces. I think right now the statue is not going anywhere. However, I would have loved to see a more secure attachment for some of these characters and pieces. Like Electro over there, he's got a key that just goes into the side of the building. I would have loved if they had like a removable sole on his foot and then had a screw or bolt go through and actually attach to the building. But right now he's kind of sitting in there by friction and gravity. You know, I don't think he's gonna fall out, but like I said, when I was assembling this thing, sometimes there's little vibrations, either you have an earthquake or people are just moving around your house or your house moves, where over time, you know, things can get dislodged. So I'm gonna have to keep checking on that every now and then just to make sure it's not slowly coming out. A screw would have solved that problem. Same thing goes with this big structural support piece on the back. They actually added this piece after the fact when they weren't sure that this other smoke piece could support the whole thing.
It doesn't really make too much sense that this giant smoke is coming out of the ground when this is the obvious smoke trail right here. But I am glad they added the support. This one piece itself is very heavy, and when you add on both the Vulture and Mysterio, it gets even heavier. And all of that is connected to this one key on the side that I was having the most trouble with. I drilled a hole through it, stuck a steel rod through the whole thing, and now it is not going anywhere. And if I want to remove it, all I have to do is remove that steel pin and it'll just come loose. Again, I wish there was a way to connect this piece and this piece via bolt. Same thing with maybe this to the ground. There's also a piece in the back here that just kind of fits on with the weight of everything, kind of smashing down on it. There's no pegs, no keys. I think the engineering could have been a little bit better. There is a lot of weight on the back of this statue. I might add some additional support rods since it's in the back of the statue, just to give it some added support, maybe even something from the ground, because if you look at the profile of this statue, you can see how it kind of leans this way. I mean, that's by design. When I'm taking this thing apart, I definitely want to remove the characters on the back side first. I think if I take things off the front, it could be a little top and back heavy and want to go this way. I'm not saying it would, just because the base is quite heavy, but you know, all it takes is a little knock and down it goes. But the other characters seem to be pretty secure. I think all the sculpts of each individual characters is great. I love the classic stylings of all of them. Like I mentioned earlier, one of my main concerns with the original Sinister Six was that there are a lot of green costumes. I mean, we got Sandman, Doc Ock, the Vulture, Mysterio, and Electro all have green costumes. Now, that only leaves Kraven out there. They were able to make each shade of green different. Not one of these guys has matching paint. And in addition to the paint variation, we also have a texture and a line variation as well on each of them. Right in the middle of all this action, we have Spider-Man. So he's got a very traditional set of colors as well. Some nice muscles and shading, again, texture on his body. And I love the action where he's kind of escaping from all this madness that's going on. Electro's got him tied up with some electricity effects around his hand. I really like on Electro, his right hand is fully painted the yellow color, while his left hand that's shooting out the electricity is actually a yellowish clear resin. So I thought that was kind of a cool effect. The feathers on Vulture look really good. I did have a little issue with the seams on his arms. They weren't going in all the way. I kind of heated the whole thing up with a hair dryer to see if that would help. However, I think the feathers actually touch his back, so I don't think they're going to be able to go in any further. Mysterio's got another texture on his cape, one pattern on the inside of the cape, and then more of a rough cloth type pattern on the back. And then with Spidey, we've got the two extra portraits. Now, usually I love the McFarlane Spider-Man. That is my Spider-Man from the 80s and 90s. However, I think with this setup, the classic Spider-Man with the medium-sized eyes probably works the best. Now, the reason I say that is because the McFarlane Spidey has a tighter line pattern in his face that don't really match up with the costume that he has. Also, all these characters are in their classic costumes as well, and I'd rather have him have a little bit more classic style. Now, as you can see from this comic book, he does have the very skinny eyes, so maybe I might go with this one, and I think this one kind of matches up the best with his outfit. All right, so there you go. That was the custom quarter scale Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six diorama. Giant piece. I have no idea where I'm gonna put this thing. Who knows? It might just live back here and you'll just see it in every video that I do. As always, let me know what you guys think of this piece in the comments down below. Don't be shy. YouTube really likes when there is activity, so leave a comment whether you like this piece, hate this piece, suggest something for a future video. But the more that YouTube likes the videos, the more they promote it, the more I'm able to make more content for you guys. So make sure to like the video, leave that comment, do all that good stuff. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.